okay? So we don't need no tension. That's not going to solve the problems that we find existentially buried deep within our soul. What we actually need don't worry, it's only my third time starting this video, so we're doing really good. For those of you who actually came back, and to my 8 subscribers, thank you for joining me on this journey. And I thought, for my first content video, rather than just an introduction, what better way to start than maybe one of the best books of all time, which is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. There are so many things packed into this tiny little read that I would say, if you were to only read 5 books in your life, make this one of them. And the reason is because Viktor Frankl shares incredible human truths in such an approachable way through a crazy life story. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish man who endured the Holocaust, including concentration camps, and he unpacks. He had a 1 in 28 chance of survival, and he managed to endure that experience, and not only endure, but establish an incredible psychotherapeutic practice upon his reintroduction into the medical world. He was a psychiatrist, and when he returned, he created a new therapeutic endeavor called logotherapy. So how that differed from previous psychotherapeutic endeavors, which was Freud, who believed that the most inherent will of a human was towards pleasure, or for Alfred Adler, who believed that the most important will of a human was towards power, which is something that we definitely hear lots of these days. Viktor Frankl thought, no, the most important thing for a human, the most motivating will inside who they are, is actually towards meaning. When everything in life is thrown out the door, when you have not even a hair left on your head because that has been shaved, and you have been degraded and humiliated to the form of almost being treated like an animal rather than a human, what is the thing that can still sustain a man's life? And he said, meaning. Now, obviously, that's a huge concept. How in the world do we even unpack that in a short video? But I thought, rather than, trying to give you my thoughts, I would share a few quotes from the book, give you some tidbits of something to think about throughout the week, and then you can take it from there. And if you want to read the book, I would say go for it. And if you say you don't have time, I would say make time. And if you simply want to just hear me talk about it for 5 minutes, then keep watching. So let's dive in. 2 main ideas that I want to share with you today, 2 quotes from the book, a few thoughts on them, and then we're done. The first one, which I'm going to find here, is probably one of the most profound lines that I have ever read, which is a quote from Nietzsche, actually, which you'll hear. Viktor writes, "As we have said before, any attempt to restore a man's inner strength in the camp had first to succeed in showing him some future goal." So that will to meaning, right? Something that is driving you, that you are setting your eyes on, something that says, why am I alive? Not just as a human, but me specifically. What is it that my life is for? Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how." I'm going to read that again. "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how," could be the guiding motto for all psychotherapeutic efforts regarding prisoners. Whenever there was an opportunity for it, one had to give them a why, an aim for their lives, in order to strengthen them and bear the terrible how of their existence. Woe to him who saw no more sense in his life, no aim, no purpose, and therefore no point in carrying on. He was soon lost. The typical reply with which such a man rejected all encouraging arguments was, "I have nothing to expect from life anymore." And what sort of answer can one give to that? What was really needed was a fundamental change in our attitude towards life. We had to learn ourselves, and furthermore, we had to teach the despairing men that it did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. We needed to stop asking about the meaning of life, which is ironic because that's this whole thing, right? Instead, think of ourselves as those who were being questioned by life daily and hourly. So he flips this idea, not that we are sort of asking about the meaning of life in some kind of philosophical way, or saying, you know, I expected this of my life. I expected that this suffering or this circumstance would not happen, or that when I pursue this goal, that I would achieve it in this way. Sure, those are all there, right? What we expected from life. But there is a transition point when suddenly that is flipped on its head and life expects something of us. These are the cards that you have been dealt. These are the circumstances that have been sent your way. What will you do with it? How will you respond? And is there a way that in your response you can rise above the circumstance to say, no matter what is thrown my way, I know that that inner sense of freedom cannot be touched. So that's the first concept. Moving from us expecting something of life and realizing, whoa, life is expecting something of me. How will I respond? How will I respond? Okay, so let's say we've mastered that. Yep, life expects something of me. I'm rising to it. I think sometimes the temptation is, okay, now I just want to remove any tension from life. So yep, this is what life has required of me. I have to be in this circumstance. So my goal is happiness, or my goal is freedom and a peaceful state of mind. And while that sounds so inviting and so lovely, I was just completely drawn into this idea of a tensionless state is what we long for, but tension is actually what we need. So I'm going to read this paragraph to you as well. Page 104. Thus, it can be seen that mental health is based on a certain degree of tension. The tension between what one has already achieved and what one still ought to accomplish, or the gap between what one is and what one should become. Such a tension is inherent in the human being and therefore is indispensable to mental well-being. Indispensable. That's pretty bold. I consider it a dangerous misconception of mental hygiene to assume that what man actually needs in the first place is equilibrium, or as it is called in biology, homeostasis, or a tensionless state. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. What he needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meaning waiting to be fulfilled by him. What man needs is not homeostasis, okay? So we don't need no tension. That's not going to solve the problems that we find existentially buried deep within our soul. What we actually need is bridging that gap between one pole represented by a meaning that is to be fulfilled and the other pole, which is the man who has to fulfill it. Bridging that gap between one pole represented by a meaning that is to be fulfilled and the other pole, which is the man who has to fulfill it. So not only have we realized, life isn't just about what I expect of it, life is also what life expects of me and how I respond to it, and finding meaning amidst my circumstance. It also is not some venture to try and just be completely balanced, homeostasis, we've just got no tension, we're sitting on a beach. Tension is actually almost this earthly, intrinsic concept. We can see it all around us in nature, that the tension in the mountains is what creates, cheesy, I know, cheesy, but it's true, diamonds, right? Gold, minerals, coal, compression over time, heat and pressure. Not to say that we're seeking pressure out, that would be a no-no. He actually talks about that. He says, don't do that. That's masochistic, right? To just try and seek out suffering. But we're saying in the refinement of our life circumstances, that is going to produce something so profound within us that we are able to surpass even the most difficult circumstances in life and achieve a sense of meaning. My big takeaway is this: the life circumstances that you have and the tension that you feel have a redemptive quality. There is something about that we can harness in the face of adversity, in the face of failure, in the face of grief, to say, how will my life speak to this? And what will this cultivate in me to be able to unlock that sense of internal freedom, which cannot be touched by the how of life, and it propels me towards my why. So Just a really simple question to end our little video for today. But I hope you enjoyed. If you read the book, let me know what you think. And I hope you have a wonderful sunny Thursday in October. Again, by the time you see this, it will be Friday. But hope you enjoyed it. See ya.